Welcome back to DS Trucks. In today's video, I want to talk about a controversial topic, and that is oil weight. What do these numbers mean? 5W40, 10W30. Does this mean that this oil is a 5-weight oil and then becomes a 40-weight oil? What does all that stuff mean? So that is one of the controversies and confusions that are kind of out there, and it's very controversial. How can an oil be a 5-weight oil and then go all the way to a 40-weight oil, but the same brand, same everything else can be a 10-weight oil and only go to a 30-weight? Is the chemistry of these oils so advanced that you could actually have an oil become thicker? How does that all work? Does it gain viscosity, or can this be thinner and then thicker than this? I don't know if that's necessarily the case. When you look at our engine oils, they all thin out with heat. They don't actually start off thick, or they don't actually start off thin, get hot, and thicken up. But there is a molecule or an additive in here that does get thicker, or does add viscosity to the oil as it heats up, but it's not so much to the point where it starts off thin and then gets thicker. All the oil still gets thinner as it heats up, but what they're able to do is allow the oil to perform like it would if it was already hot. Instead of, older oils before the 540s were out, when they only could get like 15W40, the oil would start off thicker. It's still a multi-weight oil, but as it would heat up, it would reach this 40 viscosity. Well, they're able to give you closer to that viscosity from cold temperatures, even freezing temperatures, but the oil still does need to warm up a little bit. It isn't quite at operating viscosity. It hasn't quite thinned to the perfect 40 weight just yet. So they still start off thick, and then as they heat up, they still thin out. It's just they're able to reach that 40 weight at a much lower temperature. So the thing is, and the controversy and the confusion is, like, if this is 5-weight oil, which the W doesn't actually stand for weight, it stands for winter. But if this is a 5 and this is a 10, wouldn't this oil be thicker than the 5 because it's a 10? Not necessarily, because it's connected to a 30. So 30-weight oil is thinner than 40-weight oil. 30-weight oil has less viscosity than a 40-weight oil, even though it's a 10 though. But at the end of the day, this weight, the second number, is the operating weight of the oil. So they start off, at minimum, they start off, this is at least a 30 weight. It has to be, because this is not going to get thicker when it heats up. It's still going to thin out as it heat up. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. I know this is controversial. I argue with people back and forth all the time because they say, well, that's a 5-weight oil. One of the things to think about is you can actually purchase a 0W40 weight oil. I don't think Hot Shot Secrets has it, but if you're looking for some good oil, check out Hot Shot Secrets PAO full synthetic oil. Discount code DS-Trucks. It's some of the best stuff on the market. But with these oils, if you see a 0W40, think about that. How can you measure the weight of an oil with the number 0? 0 would be like non-existent, so it would have 0 weight. This number doesn't represent weight at all. It just means it's winter performance. So if you're comparing a 5W40 to a 10W30, or let's go even a bit lower and say a 5W20, well, at operating temperature, a 5W20 is a 20-weight oil, and at 0 degrees, 5W20 oil is not the same as 540. It's only still a 20-weight oil. It's never going to be like 540 and 520 are the same thing because they have fives in the number. No, because this is a 40 weight oil at the end of the day. And when it's negative 20 degrees outside, it's still a 40 weight oil. And if it's negative 20 degrees outside of 5W20, it's still a 20 weight oil at the end of the day. So let's take a quick look here at our chart. I pulled it up on the TV in the office. The Hot Shot Secrets chart. Let's compare some of the same brands, same everything, but the weights are different. Let's take a quick look over here at the 5W40s. So right here, we've got 5W40 right next to 5W30. Both are 5 weights, but their pour points are different. Because a 30 weight oil is thinner than a 40 weight oil, the pour point on the 5W30 is much lower than it is on the 5W40. And these are the Grey Diamond Euro oils, the OEM, whatever oils that you would that you would use in a gasoline engine. 5W40 versus 5W30. It can pour lower. The 5W30 can pour lower because it is a thinner oil. The viscosity of the 5W30 at operating temperature, 100 degrees Celsius, I don't know what it transfers to Fahrenheit, but probably close to what, 200 degrees or something? I don't know. But the viscosity of a 5W30 at operating temperature is 11.5 versus the viscosity of the 5W40, which is 14. Very interesting. So the 5W30 pours colder, has a lower viscosity. At 40 degrees Celsius, the viscosity of 5W30 versus 5W40 is much lower. Even though they're both 5s, the viscosity is lower. The 5 does not mean that they're similar or that they're 5 weights or that they're anything like that. Only thing that 5 really represents is its performance as it relates to its operating weight of 40. So it's able to perform very well or very close to a 40 weight would perform at operating temperature, even at cold temperatures. Now, let's take a look at the diesel oils. We have our 10W30 right here on I guess it'd be your right side of the screen. And then the left hand side, you see the 5W40. These are 2 oils that we have sitting on the desk outside. When you look at the viscosities at 100 degrees Celsius, you will see that at 100 degrees Celsius, the viscosity of the 10W30 is 11.1. As you can see, the 10W30 is 11.1. And the 5W40, as you can see right here, 5W40 is 14.1 at 100 degrees. 14 on the 540 on the diesel oil, 14 on the 540 on the gas oil, and 11.5 on the 530 on the gas oil. 11.1 on the 1030 on the gas oil. So at operating temperature, we are able to have the viscosity of what a 30 weight oil would have at operating temperature. Now, looking at the pour point, you would think that, well, a 540 is lower than a 1030. It's gonna pour lower. Not necessarily. A 540 and a 1030 has the same pour point, negative 45 degrees on both. Now, I'm sorry, negative 45, negative 45 degrees Celsius, negative 47 Fahrenheit. The pour point on both of these oils is the same, but their viscosities are different. The 1030 is still a thinner oil at different viscosities. It's never the case that the 10W30 is going to ever be thicker. It does reach the same pour point, but for some reason, our viscosity at 40 degrees is not listed on Hot Shot Secrets for the 1030. I think the reason for that is maybe to achieve their 1030, maybe it's really a different weight oil than a 1030. It's definitely a 30 weight, but if it comes out to just work out to be like a 530 or a 030 or something like that, they really probably don't want to say that, because then it wouldn't be what's recommended. And technically speaking, if you have a 030 or a 530, you could call it a 1030 because it technically outperforms the 1030, and it's, for all intents and purposes, the same thing. But it would be, if it were labeled a 030 or whatever, maybe it wouldn't be purchased. It would be outside of the specification. I don't know. That's just my theory, but I don't know why. Maybe they can chime in and say and explain why there's no viscosity at 40 degrees. We only have the viscosity listed at 100 degrees Celsius, which is right there in that 30 weight to be 30 weight at operating temperature. So maybe we have to send it in to see what its viscosity index is, because that's not listed. But when we look at our 540 versus our 530 in our gray diamond, which I think is our gasoline engine oil, you see that at 40 degrees Celsius, the viscosity of the 530 is much thinner than the 540. If we look at two oils, the 540 versus the 530, same five, both have fives in it. This viscosity at 40 degrees is 68.0, and this viscosity at 40 degrees is 99.3. It is much different. It's a pretty large difference in viscosity, because a 30 weight oil, being that it's a 30 weight at operating temperature, is just going to always be thinner than a 40 weight is, even if you go down to the very cold temperatures where you have a 530 versus a 540. The 530's pour point, now these are the same brand of oil and the same theory and everything behind it, but the 530 pour point is going to be negative 53 degrees, and a 540, let me start over, a 530 pour point is negative 53 degrees. A 540 pour point is a negative 45. A 530 is a thinner oil because it is a 30 weight, and the 5 doesn't represent a weight of oil per se. It represents the performance of that oil as it compares to the weight of the oil at operating temperature, and how much or how close can it perform like it's already at an operating temperature before it even reaches that temperature. So a 1030, we don't know what the other numbers are as far as where its viscosity would be at 40 degrees, but a 1030, according to Hot Shots and their specifications, says that even though it's a 10 and even though one's a 5, they're saying that their 1030 pours at the same temperature as their 540. Now, 540, it's a little bit lower of a winter weight, a little bit better winter rating, bringing that 540 closer or a higher performance, being that this is a 1030. The 1030 still is pretty close to the 540 because it's tied to a 30. It still got the it still has a very good pour point. Now, if it were actually a 030, then maybe its pour point, or if it was a 530, its pour point would be lower, just like their 530 is right here. It'd be, maybe closer to this. So at negative 63 degrees Fahrenheit, the 530 in their gasoline oil can pour, and at negative 47 degrees Fahrenheit, the 540 can pour in their diesel. That's a huge difference, and it's not the fives. The fives, the zero, whatever comes in before the actual second number is not the weight of the oil. It's really kind of like the performance of the oil, and the lower that number is compared to the second number, the lower the first number is away from the second number, is the more closer its cold performance is to its hot performance. So it's got a modifier in it that allows it to maintain its viscosity as it heats up. As it's exponentially thinning out from heat, so there's an agent in it that's actually unwinding and uncoiling and adding viscosity back to the oil and keeping it from being a thinner oil. So it keeps it maintains its viscosity even though it still thins out. Now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's an oil out there that starts off like thick or starts off thinner and then it gets thicker when it warms up. But I've never seen an oil that can actually do that. As far as we can tell, the viscosities of all the oils listed here, we've got every weight oil that would go in like a 6-7 Power Stroke, or this is like a diesel oil company. But all these oils start off thicker and thin out as they heat up. So is it possible that somewhere, somehow, there's some exotic oil that does some other stuff than that? Maybe if you just had like the additive by itself, it would do some weird stuff like that. The additive that actually allows for these oils to have these multiple weights. But as far as our use in our engines are concerned, they thin out as they heat up. But I think the big misconception is that the first number, 15, 10, 5, those numbers aren't the weights of the oil. They're the performance figures of the oil. The actual weight at operating temperature is the second number, the 40 to 30. That's the weight at operating temperature. And I guess you could say the first number is kind of how the oil performs, or the kind of like the performance rating of the oil for cold weather. But this is all controversial. I'm not like an oil scientist, and I know people are going to, have their input. But comment below. Let me know what you guys think. I know this is running a little bit long of a video. But anyway, my name is Sean. This is, like I said, controversial. If you want to debate, the findings, do so in the comment section. But see you guys in the next one. Over and out. Bye.